let's talk about Toy Story, another Pixar masterpiece, I guess. Sitting at 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. Uh, it's interesting because for a movie this good, a lot of the conversation surrounding it so far has been that this is a box office flop. So I think there's kind of two topics
Oh,
to talk about here. Not only the movie. I mean, it still made 120 million, but just below expectations for what they were hoping it to be. So I think there's a bit of a discussion around maybe why this movie didn't achieve box office success as much as it did, with the movie being as good as pretty much everybody says it is. Um, why don't we start with what our general thoughts were about the movie and move into maybe why it wasn't as popular? Did you like Toy Story 4?
yes, I did. No, I liked Toy Story 4 quite a bit. I think I did not have like huge hype levels for the film, and I will get into I think how that might have affected the box office overall. But despite the fact that I thought Toy Story 3 was a fantastic conclusion, like the whole rest of the world, uh, it's kind of nice to be back after almost a decade with these characters and these voice actors. But yeah, I liked it a lot. I think it was another great conclusion to the story, and once again presents the in great Pixar fashion the existential crises that adults can find when they watch Pixar films that are also for children. So it does all the Pixar things that Pixar is so great at. So did you like it a lot?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. Probably not my favorite Toy Story movie, but still a really enjoyable and kind of surprising in ways tale because oh, uh, they gave a lot of time to characters that I didn't suspect that they would. In terms of especially like Bo Peep, um, but they made this very much like a Woody story, and I would assume this will probably be the last Toy Story movie. It seems to be kind of the thought of a lot of people out there, and if it is, I think it's a good send off. But I really felt like this movie was very funny. It was pretty action packed, and it didn't. I think, like you said, it didn't necessarily have the emotional highs in a good way of Toy Story 3, because Toy Story 3 was almost like traumatic, that scene in the incinerator. Like I still
Mhm.
think back to that and just do not enjoy that sitting through that. But the emotional moments in this one were a lot more palatable in my opinion. Um, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I've been reflecting a lot on Toy Story 3, and I think it's probably my least favorite of the
Hmm.
quadrilogy now. Um, but I mean, they're all so great. So I mean, who cares how you rank them? I guess. But I mean,
Right.
yeah, Bo Peep was not in Toy Story 3 at all, and
Right.
have bringing her back and really fleshing her out as a character. Really, the only side character outside of Buzz and Woody, and I guess Jesse to little lesser extent, it's been fleshed out at all. To be
Mhm.
honest, um, I thought she was really effective. That was great to see. Also interesting that Buzz kind of sidelined for about 2 acts of this film,
Yeah.
and you wonder how much of that is the presence of Tim Allen as the voice actor, not the most popular guy these days. He's just because of the things he said recently. Um,
Political views.
right. And the thing with Toy Story 4's existence, and we can talk about Pixar and its uh, barrage of sequels this decade, but from what everyone says, Toy Story 4 really only came to be because John Lasseter and Andrew Stanton, who directed the Legion premiere, funny enough, they kind of like secretly developed this movie and like basically finished an early script before Pixar even knew about it. And obviously, they excised Lasseter from the company eventually, given sexual misconduct allegations. But you wonder if this movie would ever have been attempted if it didn't have John Lasseter, of course, originally the director of the first two and the original force and face of Pixar in the early '90s and mid 2000s. I mean, he's you should deserves all the credit for making Pixar what it is today. Um,
Mhm.
and I think what people have been saying about Toy Story 5's potential existence is now that Andrew Stanton has uh, left Toy Story following his work on the script, and Lasseter, of course, is gone now, works for Skydance. Uh, is there anyone at Pixar who would really try like stump for a fifth Toy Story? You know, like there's not a lot of ownership left for the people that are still there. So interesting thing to think about. But I mean, did you take away any of the negative headlines from the box office disappointment that was the third highest grossing opening weekend of the year? Did you? Because I think there's a lot of interesting reasons for that, even if the movie is still obviously going to be a huge hit, already is. You know, it's a very fascinating movie, both meta and plot wise. You know, good stuff.
Sure. Um, yeah, I think the in terms of the box office issues, I buy into the theory about just sequel fatigue. Um, it's it's just like how many times can we get really hyped up to see these, and especially when uh, we know it's going to be coming out, and we're going to be able to watch it in our homes, not have to go to the movie theater for most people who don't buy subscriptions and pay, $13 to $20 to sit through a movie plus 20 more bucks to eat a popcorn, drink soda. So in the past, where it was like Toy Story's coming out, got to get our kids to see it. It's like, yeah, we'll wait a couple months. They can watch these other three movies to tide them over, and then when it comes out on Netflix or HBO or Hulu, we'll watch it there. Um, I also think, in terms of something like Avengers, Star Wars, those are sequels where if you don't go see that right away, you're gonna have it spoiled. Who cares about a Toy Story movie getting spoiled? You don't go to Toy Story for the plot and for the reveals and for
Yeah.
like the moments that whatever's gonna happen in the last episode of the trilogy for Star Wars, people are gonna be talking about it immediately. So if you don't see it right away, it's gonna be like, all right, you're missing out. Toy Story, it's like, all right, we'll see it later and we'll enjoy it just as much as we could have 6 months ago.
Yeah, no, it's interesting too because I think Toy Story 4 ultimately has a very basically unopposed runway to make all the family kid money at the box office until Lion King comes out. Um,
Yeah.
so you figure kids movies aren't necessarily appointment viewing, like the parents take them when they can. So who knows if this was an issue? And maybe if they release it a
Hmm.
weekend earlier for Father's Day, it could have done better. They usually do go with that weekend. But Finding Dory opened about 15 million more than this a few years ago. Incredibles 2
Hmm.
just last year made 189 and went on to gross 1.2 billion worldwide. Toy Story 4 obviously is not hitting those marks. I think the reason for that is, you know, Incredibles 2 was 13 years in the making,
Yep.
and Finding Dory, Finding Nemo was from
I
what,
think
oh
that's
oh 03, oh 04, whatever it
so
is.
16.
Toy Story 3, again, everyone was so satisfied with it that you saw this with the trailers and like the early, it just felt like there was a muted lack of excitement for Toy Story 4. And it wasn't negative buzz the way Aladdin had, which also ended up not mattering at all for the sake of
Hmm.
that movie. But you just feel like there wasn't a sense of urgency to go out and see Toy Story 4, which again, it's funny because we're saying all these things in a negative way, but the movie still is the third highest grossing opening weekend of 2019.
Yep.
And it was opened in the most theaters ever for a animated film and the
Wow.
biggest global launch for an animated film. So quite the success. But again, it's interesting to see another sequel not meet expectations. I mean, like the forecasts were very high for this, and even the modest ones, it still missed by like 20 million. So uh, not even Disney, not even Pixar is immune to what seems to be a waning uh, theater going experience. But I think that's enough on the non aspects of the film. Let you have more to add.
Just just quick. I want to see how good you are with this. Um, Toy Story. How much? Toy Story 3. How much do you think it grossed in the box office?
I know that
What?
Incredibles 2, Finding Dory, and Toy Story 3 were all billion-dollar movies worldwide.
Yep.
Um, I know
Yeah.
Toy Story 4 actually, the opening weekend, if you adjust for inflation, was less than Toy Story 3. Um, but I'm
Yeah.
sure you got the exact number.
Yeah. You were. I mean, it's just right over a billion. It's that is kind of mind blowing to me, just because when you think about Toy Story 4, maybe it will get there. Got quite a long road, and it does have a couple weeks, like you said, um, pretty free of any other movies. I mean, I'm sure for that, like I mean, children who saw Toy Story 3 in theaters maybe when they were 5 years old are now 14 now. So they're probably going to want to go see Spider-Man when it comes out. And that will definitely cut into some of that like young teen interest. I don't know how many of them are going to see repeat showings of Toy Story 4 anyway.
Right.
But it has a lot of runway to try to get up there.
Yep.
But still, like you said, box office down. And we say every summer, at least for the past like probably 5 or 6, movies are dying, and then it seems to always kind of pick back up. But this might be a trend to worry about. Going back to the film though, and things I was really impressed with the animation. And there's been a lot of videos about it, but the animation this is just unbelievable, and especially when you compare it to like Toy Story 1. And the image I've seen a lot of is the cat who's in the antique shop in this one compared to the dog from the first Toy
Uh,
Story.
sure.
It's like so unbelievably so much better, the animation in this. And Bo Peep also has been getting a lot of attention in terms of how her glow up. And I just think the animation in these Pixar films is just unbelievable. One of the greatest achievements probably in like modern film in a lot of ways. Um, I also really thought Bo Peep just as a character in general was really interesting and brought about a lot of interesting plot questions of like meaning, finding happiness, letting go of things, really driving Woody's character arc in this film forward. And just thought she was a delight as well. What other things stood out to you about the film?
uh, I think what's getting a lot of love from the critics is Forky's
Hmm.
presence in the show, which is or the movie, which is funny because Forky's relative arc and purpose for the story basically wraps up halfway through the movie.
Yep.
And he's voiced by Tony Hale, doing a great Buster, Jace
Yeah.
voice performance, and
Trash.
Forky's yeah,
Trash.
very relatable for many people hearing "I'm trash." Uh, but Forky's presence in the show and his early uh, existential crisis. You know, there's a lot, a lot of adult themes you can take from him, whether it's
Mhm.
creationism and purpose and direction, and uh, it relates to Woody in a smart way. And I think that's always just been impressive about the best Pixar movies is that you can dig deep into the meaning if you want to. You don't have to enjoy the movie, and that's certainly once again the case here. But yeah, I thought Forky just was impressive because it's a new wrinkle to the movie, and it foreshadows the journey Woody will go on in the movie, where he's struggling to determine what his purpose now is. You
Mhm.
know, as a toy that's not as needed as he once was, and has also uh, done his did his time, put his dues in. You know,
Right.
whatever. Um, that was basically my favorite thing. I thought the way it ends, obviously the hits you in a feels moment. Obviously, it doesn't compare to the Toy Story 3 ending. No
Thank
one
God.
would say that. But I think having Woody and Buzz get that send off and immediately following that up with a kid getting reunited with his parents,
Mhm.
it's just kind of effective Pixar at its best. And it's very few animated films, even ones that try and be adult, like say the Lego movies. Very few animated films or films in general can even say they can will balance the scales this way. So it's just I don't want to say it's more of the same. That sounds like I'm being very generic, but it's more of that greatness in a new way. I think Forky is really the reason that it works. But I mean,
Yeah.
what else stood out to you besides the glow up from Bo and the great screen time she has for the first time, really.
Yeah, I thought Christina Hendricks as Gabby Gabby
Mhm.
was very very well done because she really is very menacing in that first like I don't know half of the movie. And then maybe that third act you get to see a kind of a little bit more of the softer side. And it feels like a very like fleshed out villain for the movie in a lot of senses. I also think the the mannequins she has with her were like really creepy.
Oh yeah.
And I hated their presence, but I felt like that kind of added this nice yeah, this nice sense of horror. And when they tried to talk, oh god, I hated that so
Hmm.
much.
Well done.
Um I thought the action scenes were really awesome, and I mean, shout out Nuke Kaboom, Keanu Reeves just
The
continuing to be the
summer
best.
of Keanu, man.
Yeah, everything he does at this point is fantastic. But I really enjoyed Nuke Kaboom, especially his final jump, where he closed his eyes and just went for it. Freaking hilarious. Um, yeah, and I feel like, uh, speaking of like something being hilarious, they really did the funny moments really well. Like, uh, wanting to send the dad to jail to like stall, was I thought a really funny bit. Also, giving the dinosaur, who I believe is I think it's Aaron Shaw, right, who voices the dinosaur, uh, the job of being the navigation voice is
Yes,
just
the
hysterical.
Triceratops.
It's
Yeah.
a great a great a great choice. So I thought the funny moments of this were really great. You already talked about Tony Hale, who I thought was really funny as Forky as well, and even that like post credit scene where he's like, "I'm going to explain everything to you." The first question is, "How am I alive?" He's like, "I don't know." Like, just such a good extra credit scene for sure. There's a lot to like about this movie. Anything we didn't touch on that you think we should be shouting out?
uh, a lot of good bits. I thought the Buzz Lightyear inner voice bit is set up really
Yeah,
well, and then actually used in a funny and effective way throughout the Buzz scenes. That was great. And then Key and Peele's presence as was it
Ducky
something
and
and Bunny?
Bunny.
Yeah, they're just a new element, a new dynamic. You know, as toys that have a different experience. Again, it's simple conceit, but we've seen bits of it before, and I think if you want to again dive deep into the Toy Story machinations, it's like not everyone has had the same experience as Woody and the gang,
Yep.
and you get a little bit of that once again for the guys that are carnival toys. You know, it's smartly well done, and even if you don't want to dig that deep, it's Key and Peele, so they're really fucking funny. And their shining moment, of course, is the bit where they try and woo the grandma in the antique shop, and
Mhm.
that montage of sorts hilarious. So yeah,
Yeah, and just to kind of couple off your point a little bit about like a different experience, um, I'm forgetting. Maybe you mentioned it already of uh, someone leaving because of some issues and some possible controversy. But this is a much more diverse Toy Story movie than past ones have been, and just in terms
yep.
of people walking around, in terms of I think this is the first black voice actors they've had. If I'm
Uh,
remembering
for
correctly,
Pixar or Toy Story,
for
obviously,
Toy Story.
yeah,
Yeah,
Incredibles has Samuel Jackson.
right. And just I think this idea of like diversity and bringing in uh, other perspectives in terms of this toy world was just really smart and added a whole nother element to it. So shout out to them for being very 2019, or at least trying to be more 2019 than
Yeah, and that's kind of been the underlying thing in the industry is that while Pixar gets all these deserved accolades from parents and adult film critics alike, not to mention the kids who watch the movies, uh, Lasseter's presence throughout the studio for so many years really contributed to an overall boys club atmosphere at the studio, which
Mhm.
has thousands of employees, of course. But Rashida Jones left the early script writing for Toy Story 4 over just the
Yep.
Lasseter's energy and the fact that the only woman director they ever hired was for Brave. They fired her. Um, and having Coco in 2017 and now Toy Story 4 actually showing some stuff, it does feel like uh, there's at least a bit of a new chapter at Pixar. Perhaps that's more of the Disney influence since they've taken over the studio years ago. Who knows? But better late than never, I guess. Right?
Absolutely. Toy Story 4, go see it. Maybe help out the box office a little bit if
Yeah.
you
Please
have
do.